Hey, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, I'm going to give all glory, all honor, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, to the whole collective Israel. This is your brother Shemash One coming back with another lesson. And this lesson is regarding the filthy mouth of Israel. The filthy mouths of Israel, right? Especially when you see these guys, Israel, on the corners with Bibles in their hand, using this profanity, and trying to justify, that bad behavior, right? We have to understand that we are ambassadors of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai and have to conduct ourselves as such. So let's get this word premeditated because, and we're going to see a little later on, and Mashiach talks about how that's coming out of their heart. So that's in them, right? Right. So that's premeditated. So this is premeditated. It says characterized by fully conscious, willful intent and a measure of forethought and planning. So that's in you. When you cussing like that and it's just running out, out of you, just so natural like that, that's in you. That's within you, okay? Right? So here, let's go to Sirach chapter 19 and 16, okay? Because we all do this, right? It says, there is one that slippeth in his speech, but not from his heart. Remember that word heart. And who is he that have not offended with his tongue? So we've all slipped at the tongue like that, okay? So now let's go and look at what Mashiach talks about in terms of, that maliciousness being in your heart when you speak like that. That's disgusting, right? And so offensive, to utilize such profanity and such egregious words like that, okay? Let's go to Matthew 12 and 33, right? And Mashiach, he's going to show us. This is Matthew 12 and 33. It says, either make the tree good and his fruit good, or else make the tree corrupt and his fruit corrupt, for the tree is known by his fruit, right? So you're known by your fruit, right? All right? Or your character. 34 says, O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? Right. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So this is coming out of your heart. This is within you. When you're using, such egregious and disrespectful words like that, just so offensive, that's in your heart. 35, it says, a good man out of the good treasure of the heart bringeth forth good things. Edifying words to build up Israel. We already tore it down enough. It says, and an evil man out of the evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. Right? See that? It says, but I say unto you that every, not some, but every idle word that man shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. So we see that these people with this premeditated, just malicious and bad behavior is coming from their heart, okay? And they do it with impunity, okay? Right? 37. It says, for by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. You have to call somebody a MF this, B, just filthy mouth, every word, just completely filthy. And you standing there with a Bible in your hand, right? And so now how do you think, you look to these people? Because remember, we are ambassadors of Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai. We're going to see that word ambassador a little later, right? So this is the way you represent Yahweh, by this egregious and bad behavior like that. That's ridiculous, okay? Right? So let's go to the book of, or stay in the book of Sirach. Let's go to Sirach chapter 23. That's ridiculous. These old guys, old men, young men, use it. I mean, it's just deplorable. It's like, what is that, man? You know what I'm saying? And so you think people are going to follow you with that type of behavior? That's ridiculous. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? To even fathom such thought like that, okay? So this is Sirach chapter 23 and 15. Watch this. It says, the man that is accustomed to opprobrious words will never be reformed all the days of his life. So now, what does this word opprobrious mean? Okay, let's get it here. Let's go. So this is a etymology online. This word opprobrious. Okay. It says, see, full of reproach, and intended to bring disgrace, reproach. Okay. You know, it's something that we can't, utilize. We can't conduct ourselves like this, right? So we see him saying that a man that, that's used to using those words will never be reformed. When it's so easy for you to utter that garbage out of your mouth, how is that edifying? How? It's ridiculous. Okay. So now let's go to Psalms. Let's go to the book of Psalms. These people are just ridiculous. Israel is ridiculous, man, using this type of language. Sitting there looking like damn fools with Bibles in their hand. Just misrepresenting Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai. And they wonder why people, talk about us like that. Right? Because you got these same evil, wicked spirits of Israel on the earth today. So this is Psalms 141. Let's get that, Psalms 141, and we're going to get verses 3 and 4. Because remember, this stuff comes out of your heart. That's in you. It's like a cancer. You got to cut that out. So this is Psalms 141:3. It says, set a watch, O Yahweh, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. 4, it says, incline not my heart to any evil thing. That's an evil thing, I'm saying, when you're uttering such vulgar language. That's deplorable and despicable language. It says, incline not my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works. That's a wicked work. To practice wicked works with men that work iniquity, and let me not eat of their dainties. Right. So in other words, right. And so this is a twofold on this one. So if you're around people, that are using this type of language, next thing you know, that spirit jumps on you, and you are dropping F-bombs. So you can't be around people like that, okay? Right? So let's go to Proverbs. Ridiculous. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 4 and 23. We can't use that language. It's despicable. It's deplorable. So this is a Proverbs 4:23. It says, see thy heart with all diligence. This is exactly what Mashiach Yahweh was talking about. This stuff is coming out of your heart. If it's so easy for you, to just use that type of language, you got a problem, okay? You need to correct that, fast and pray, and ask Yahweh to take that away from you, okay? Again, Proverbs 4:23 says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. It says, put away from thee a forward mouth, and perverse lips put far up from thee. So if you got a forward mouth and perverse lips, you need to put that away from you, right? That's ridiculous, okay? So now let's go to, let's go to Psalms 19. Speaking that garbage, that's utter garbage. Who in the heck are you edifying? Standing there looking like a demon, okay? So this is Psalms 19 and 14. It says, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Yahweh, my strength and my redeemer. How is that type of vulgar language and profanity acceptable to Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai? It's not, okay? Because Yahweh, he don't hear sinners. Let's get that right quick. Let's go to John. Yahweh don't hear that in terms of when you praying to him and using that type of vulgar language. So this is John 9 and 31. Okay? John 9:31, it says, now we know that Yahweh heareth not sinners. When you using that language like that, right? It's pathetic. It says, but if any man be a worshiper of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai and does his will, him he hear. Okay? You can't use that type of despicable language. Ridiculous. Egregious. It's egregious. Right? Right? So, let's look up the word profanity. Right? When you're using profanity like that. So, this is a etymology online. Right, and the word profanity. Yep. So this is where the word profane is derived from. Okay, right. So it says profanity. It says quality of being profane language or conduct. Right. It's a Latin word. Right. So we see that your conduct and your words are profane, okay? It's disgusting. You know, it says blasphemy, profanity, okay? That's what it is, right? These words, you know, because it's not edifying anybody. Who can you edify? And so now you have, you know, Yahweh's bringing, you know, us in, new Israelites coming in, you know, to understand our culture, right? Our bloodline. And you got these people out using this type of language, right? So now we're trying to bring the people out of the world. So now how can we distinguish, right? If you standing there, you know what I'm saying, you know, calling, you know, professing to, you know Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai and using that language, how can we determine, you know, who you are? You are the devil. You are still of the world when you're utilizing this type of bad behavior, bad and destructive behavior. So we see that the word profanity, you know what I'm saying, you know, is extremely profane language and conduct. It's bad, right? So, you know, those guys got to repent in the name of Mashiach Yahushua. So now, let's go to the book of Ephesians. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 4. Ridiculous. That's offensive when you hear that stuff. I can't listen to that. That's offensive to us to hear such vulgar and destructive language. That's crazy. You know, and to try to justify, you know, that as you know, Yahweh is telling you to do that. No, that's you telling you to do that. And Yahweh ain't got nothing to do with none of that. Okay? So this is let's see, let me get it. Let's go to Ephesians 4 and 29. Right, and I'm gonna read this. So first I'm gonna read it from the King James. It says Ephesians 4:29. It says, "Let not corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers." How is that edifying, right? You know, and how is it grace to the hearers, right? That's malicious. You know what I'm saying? That's destructive and vulgar language. So now let's get this same precept. Let's get it in the. We're gonna get it in the AMP Bible, right? The same Ephesians 4:29. It says, "Do not let unwholesome, foul, profane, worthless, vulgar words ever come out of your mouth, but only such speech as is good for building up others." Exactly. According to the need and the occasion, so that it will be a blessing to those who hear you speak. That's exactly right, okay? Because, when we're speaking, thus says Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, we're ambassadors, so we're representing Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai. How in the heck can you represent Yahweh, with that bad, with that extreme bad behavior like that, okay? So, let's go to 2 Corinthians 5:20, because we're representatives of Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai. Okay, so we have to do this in fear and in trembling. Okay, we can't be out there, using, this flesh. You know what I'm saying? To justify bad behavior. Okay, that's what it is, right? That's in you. When it's so easy for you to spew that garbage out like that. Okay, but that's what it is. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 5:20. 2 Corinthians 5:20. We're going to see we're ambassadors. Okay. It says, 2 Corinthians 5:20. It says, now then we are ambassadors for Mashiach Yahushua. We're ambassadors. Okay. Right. As though Yahweh did beseech you by us. We pray you in Mashiach Yahushua's stead, be ye reconciled to Yahweh. You have to be reconciled to Yahweh. How we reconcile back to Yahweh by coming out of this world, right? And fearing Yahweh and keeping his commandments. So now when we see this word ambassador, so let's look at this word ambassador. Okay. This word ambassador. Let's get it right quick. Let's see what an ambassador is. Right? It's going to be one that represents the Most High. Let's get it. Ambassador. Okay. So this is ambassador, right? I'm not sure what dictionary. Okay, so this is the Oxford Dictionary, right? It says ambassador. See, an accredited diplomat sent by a country as its official representative to a foreign country. So we have to be diplomats, right? We have to be ambassadors to represent Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai in spirit and in truth. That's what an ambassador is, right? You don't go out there, speaking your own egregious language like that. We have to represent, Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai in righteousness and in spirit and in truth. Not with that disgusting vulgar language, okay? So now let's go to the law right quick. Let's get Leviticus as an ambassador of Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai. Let's go to the law. Let's get Leviticus 22 and 32. Watch this. So this is right. So this is Leviticus 22:32. It says, neither shall ye profane my holy name. When you standing there, with that disrespectful tongue, spewing all that garbage, all this profanity out of your mouth. Remember, we saw that word, profanity, is very disrespectful, right? So when you're utilizing that type of language and behavior, you're profaning the name of Yahweh, right? It says, Leviticus 22:33, it says, neither shall ye profane my holy name, right? It says, but I will be hallowed, set apart out of this world among the children of Israel. I am Yahweh which hallowed you. So you got to be hallowed. So you have to be set apart. So how you set apart, when you're speaking the same thing, as the world is. So people, they can't even, but they can't even, they don't even know how to, separate you from those other people over there, because you're acting just like those people with the same type of behavior and words. How does one distinguish, the hallowed one, and the, and the worldly one? You can't distinguish that with that type of behavior. Okay, let's go to Colossians. Let's go to Colossians chapter 3, and I'm gonna get verse 8. Colossians 3 and 8, it says, but now ye also put off all these, anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Right? 9, it says, lie not one to another, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds. So you've put off that old man, that old filthy man that used that type of profanity and egregious language. Man, you put him off. It says 10, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. How are you standing there using that profanity like that, right? And say that you're in the image of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushua. You lied to yourself, okay? Let's say in the book of Colossians. Let's go to Colossians 4 and 6. Bad behavior and bad language, right? So this is Colossians 4 and 6. It says, let your speech be always with grace. It says always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. Right? Exactly. Okay? So we see that our speech has to always be with grace and not with filthy conversation, with that filthy tongue. Okay? Let's go to Ephesians 5 and 4. Ephesians 5 and 4. It says, neither filthiness nor foolish talking. That's foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. So with that filthy conversation, the filthiness and the foolish talk, all right, that's foolishness and foolish talk. We don't use that. Okay, let's go to James 1:26. James 1:26. Get it? James 1:26. It says, if any man among you seem to be religious and bridleth not his tongue, he deceiveth his own heart. This man's religion is vain. Okay, so now we know, religion in this context is talking about our culture, right? It's not talking about how the world perceives religion. Okay. Right, this is our culture, right, which is, given to only Israel. Okay, so right, you have to understand how we have to, bridle our tongue. You can't just let all that filth come out of your mouth like that. That's completely filthy. Okay, all right. So let's get Matthew 15. Matthew 15. Matthew 15 and 11. This is red letter. It says, not that which goeth into the... So it's like it says, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defiles a man. In this context, it's talking about your speech. Right? Speech. You know what I'm saying? And other, destructive things that come out of, vain imaginations, adultery, and all that stuff. Man, this is what defiles you right here. With that type of garbage speech coming out of your mouth like that, that defiles you, man. Right? So let's go to the book of James. Let's get James 3. Let's get James 3. And we're going to start at verse 2. It says, for in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body. We just read that, okay? It says, behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold, also the ships, which though they be so great and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. Even so the tongue is a little member and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. Exactly. It says, and the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body. See that? How it defiles your whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire and hell. Okay? 7 says, for every kind of beast and of bird and of serpent and of things in the sea is tamed, and have been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. It says, therewith we bless Yahweh, even the Father, and therewith curse we men. So now this curse is not talking about cussing. So cussing and cursing is different, right? But it's still, giving us the understanding. When you put a curse on somebody, we're not talking about that. We're talking about cussing, with that profanity language. It says, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of Yahweh. It says, out of the same mouth proceedeth blessing and cursing, and cussing too. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. Doeth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Yeah, see that? It says, can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries, either a vine, figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh, right, out of our mouths, right? So, I would encourage those brothers, and sisters, to, to stop, using that type of behavior, and fast and pray that Yahweh takes that out of them. Okay. So let's go and look at some of the precepts that they misconstrue to try to justify that bad speech. Let's go over to 2 Corinthians chapter 11. They say Paul was cussing here. No, he wasn't. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 11:6. It says, but though I be rude in speech, yet not in knowledge, but we have been thoroughly made manifest among you in all things. So Paul is not talking about being rude in terms of cussing people out, right? He may not be learned, in a language, but he has the knowledge. Say, for example, if Paul is speaking English, right? And he's conducting conversation with a person who only speaks Spanish. Paul may not know Spanish like that, so that's rude to the person who's speaking Spanish, but not in knowledge. Paul may understand the knowledge of the concept, okay, and the context, of the discussion, but he may not be able to articulate the language. That's what he's talking about. So let's get this rude here. Paul not cussing these people out. So here it is here. Let me see. Slocky. People are ridiculous trying to use this. Here it is here.
Strong's G 2399. Idiotes.
Right. So this word, this is where the word idiot comes from this word right here, right? So let's go down to the outline of biblical usage and see what it means. See, right? Let's go to 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go down to the fourth one. It says in the New Testament, see, an unlearned, illiterate man as opposed to the learned and educated, right? One who is unskilled in an art. So he was unskilled maybe in a language or something like that, in terms of being able to speak that language fluently. But the man had the understanding, right? Let's go back to it. See, so people can't justify that. That's a bunch of hogwash, right? And then the other one here. Let's get this first, right? Back to 2 Corinthians 11:6. It says, but though I be rude in speech, yet not in knowledge. Okay, so he may not be able, to fluently speak that speech like that, right? But not in knowledge. And another one they also use is the dumb ass, right? With Balaam, right? So that's literally talking about a dumb ass, right? It's not talking about calling somebody a dumb ass like that, right? That's another one that they misinterpret. Okay. Let's go to Acts chapter 4, because we're going to see in Acts chapter 4 and 13, right? It's going to give us an instance here, right? Let me see. Do you want this? It's like it. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, this is in context to what we just read in 2 Corinthians 11 and 6. How Paul was maybe not learned in the speech or whatever it was, right? But we're going to see a context here. So this is Acts 4:13. It says, "Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned," we just read that, right? "And ignorant men, they marveled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Mashiach Yahushua." So these people perceived that these two brothers were ignorant and unlearned, but they weren't, right? Okay, so that's what that's talking about. It's not talking about what we just read over there, being rude, and being able to justify using just slanderous language like that. Okay, let's go back to the book of Sirach. So I pray that this is edifying to the listener. So just like through the spirit of Yahweh by Hashem, what I'm doing through the spirit, is to uplift my people, not to tear my people down. Okay, with sweet language, to edify and give grace to the hearer. So this is Sirach 20 and 13. It says, "A wise man by his words maketh him beloved, but the graces of fools shall be poured out." Exactly. And you see the graces of the fools when they're standing there cussing people out, you be this and you MF that and just all that F-bomb stuff, okay? Let's jump down to verse 18. It says, "To slip upon a pavement is better than to slip the tongue," right? So the fall of the wicked shall be speedily, right? So it's better to slip on the pavement than to slip at the tongue, okay? And with these people, again, their conduct is premeditated. These people are thoughtful in that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's egregious. Yeah, right? So let's go to Philippians. Let's get Philippians 2, right? And look at verse 15. So we want to be like this, right? Philippians 2:15, it says that ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of Yahweh Ba'asham, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights of the world. So how can you shine like a light in the world, and you out there using F-bombs, BITCH and all that stuff, SHIT, all of that? Yeah, all of that, just filthy. Okay, let's go to Romans 12. Can't use that language, man. Let's go to Romans 2 and Romans 12 and 2. It says, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yahweh Ba'asham." So by using that profanity and that profane language like that, you think that that's acceptable and perfect and the perfect will of Yahweh Ba'asham? No, it's not. Right? So we got to do this, right? Let's go to let's go to 1 Thessalonians 5. 1 Thessalonians 5 and 23, it says, First Thessalonians 5:22, it says, abstain from all appearance of evil. All appearance of evil. So when you're standing on, on the corner where you standing at, and you're making these videos, whatever it is, and you're utilizing, just that, profane language like that, egregious, bad, man. You know what I'm saying? So, I pray that, this lesson is edifying. Once again, I want to give all glory, all honor, all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai. Shalom.